Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel or our website. It's in the description below. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing a watch that's new for 2020 and just beginning to appear on pre-owned markets. It is the right-sized Grand Seiko spring drive GMT SBGE255, part of a new generation of better dimensioned and better proportioned Grand Seiko spring drive GMTs. It proves that a spring drive GMT does not have to be the size of a fist. The watch is 40.5 millimeters in stainless steel with a scratch-resistant blue ceramic bezel. In profile, it measures 14.6 millimeters, and two ways to measure it lug-to-lug. If you just measure the case lug-to-lug, then it's 48.5 millimeters, and if you include the solid end-link ends, it's a little bit broader at 50.7 millimeters across the wrist. Now, the spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters. We're going to throw this watch on the wrist and take a look at how it fits. You can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, the watch wears with an ease previously unseen on spring drive GMTs, which tend to be huge. Well, no more. As you can see, the down the barrel shot gives me plenty of clearance on both sides, and I can recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference, not something I previously would have declared for a Grand Seiko spring drive GMT. You can also see that it will fit underneath the cuff as the bezel is primarily sloped and allows a sleeve to ramp up over its side. Taking a look at the bracelet, it's a handsome piece that manages to avoid deriving much aesthetic from the dominant three-link bracelet in the sports segment, the Rolex Oyster. This is all Grand Seiko's own. You can see staggered link size, staggered link alignment, intermediates in high polish with outer faces in polish, and a little bit of a transitional bevel from the hoods to the flanks of the links. This being a Grand Seiko steel bracelet, you remove the sizable links with a screwdriver, no pins and sleeves here, all held by screws. You can also see there's a half link built in on each side to allow you to fine-tune the sizing, and then 4 divots drilled into the clasp so you can use your strap tool to change the anchoring points of that bracelet inside the clasp. The clasp externally is polished and satin finished. There's a twin trigger release and a single fold mechanism in steel. The twin triggers ensuring that this cannot pop open no matter how vigorous your activity. The case is complex. As you can see, it swells at the mid case. It tumbles down when viewed in profile, and then of course it also has that side-to-side arc, so the curvature is complex. It's also black polished and mirror smooth, achieved by the tin plate polishing method that Grand Seiko calls Zaratsu polish. The surface to be milled is literally held against a spinning tin plate on a European Zalitz machine, and this technique requires about 3 years to master. So while the machines themselves have European origins, the foremost practitioners of this optically smooth hand polish are the folks at Grand Seiko. Aside from the complexity of the case, you can see there's also a little bit of a transitional bevel on the side and then satin finish on the hoods for contrast. The bezel has a almost vertical portion and then a shallower conical slope, and you can see it being in gloss blue ceramic. It is very scratch resistant. The timepiece features its crown down at 4 o'clock, and it replaces the 4 o'clock index with the date, which I find to be relatively handsome compared to a stub index. I think this is the right way to do it. I also think that with the crown down at 4 o'clock, this becomes an ambidextrous watch that's not going to dig the wrist regardless of whether you're a lefty or a righty. Now there's a chapter ring that is alternately silver and blue, and of course the dial base is blue with a few cyan accents, and you read that 24-hour second time zone hand against the bezel. So it's fascinating because, as you could see, the external bezel lines up with the internal bezel. So you have the evens on the external bezel, and then as you could see, there are also odds on the internal bezel. So you have 11, 12, 13, 14. Interior, exterior, that's how this is arrayed. It makes it easier to read that 24-hour second time zone. Now jumping down to the dial base, you can see that the individual indices and the hands are remarkably brilliant. A combination of satin and polish with razor sharp breaks between those finished surfaces. These little components are hand finished by artisans who use diamond tipped milling tools to create these parts. So I mentioned it's a hand finished case, it's also a hand finished dial. There's a power reserve indicator, 3-day power reserve, 2 time zones, one 24 hours, one in 12-hour format. Now the watch is 200 meters water resistant. It has a screw down crown. Pull the crown out all the way, you have hacking or stop seconds. Now I also have the ability to adjust the local hand, and note that the watch continues keeping time. So this is just for time zone jumping, and I can jump east or west. It'll drive the date in either direction. The spring drive system is automatic. It has the 72-hour power reserve. There's not much to see on the case back. It's a solid case back, but that allows the watch to boast 200-meter water resistance in Grand Seiko land. The timepiece, of course, is accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds a month, and that's the advantage of spring drive. No batteries, no motors, no capacitors. The spring provides all the energy to drive the hands and also to wake up the quartz oscillator with a little induced electromagnetic system that creates electronic current to wake up the quartz oscillator and a magnetic braking system to speed or slow the seconds hand, which is driven directly by the springs. There are no motors. As a result, the unidirectional governing wheel moves the hand in a completely smooth sweep. It doesn't stagger, start, or stop. It does not have a Swiss lever escapement, but it is a handmade movement. It is hand-tuned, and when it goes back for service, it is serviced by a watchmaker. It's designed to last not just the life of the watch, but beyond the lifetime of the owner. This is a timepiece that fires on all cylinders with quartz precision and mechanical soul. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the spring drive GMT, that 9R66 30 joule movement gliding away in the dark.